Hello again and welcome to another Genestealer cult video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a big thank you to York Chan for sending in some awesome pictures of his bolt action Germans. I know they're not Warhammer 40k, but you know, Nazis are bad and Genestealer cult are bad, so they kind of go together, right? Anyway, thanks for these pictures in York, absolutely fantastic, love a good bit of bolt action. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them directly to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. And don't worry if you can't remember that, there will be links and email addresses down in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Now today's video is going to be a quick tip tactica for my fellow followers of the Four-Armed Emperor, and what we're going to be looking at is a number of ways that you can make basically an almost unkillable Warlord. You see, one of the interesting things about 9th edition, and Genestealer cult in 9th edition especially, is a lot of your killing power comes from your characters. You've got absolute beasts out there like the Patriarch, who are real blenders in combat, but they can die. They can, you know, potentially be relatively easily killed. And this can be a problem with a character-heavy army like the Genestealer cult, because you could end up giving away a lot of secondary points if your opponent picks the Assassinate secondary against you. So what you want to do is essentially make your characters really hard to kill. And there's a number of ways you can do this. Now, the two main tanky characters in the Genestealer cult codex is the Patriarch and the Abominator. So that's where we're going to be focusing on today. Special mention can go out to Jackal Alphas because it does have an inbuilt -1 against shooting. But most of the time your blendy damage dealing combat character is going to be a close combat character. So we'll be focusing on the Abominator and the Patriarch today. Now, looking at the Patriarch, it already has a pretty beastly stat line, and out of the two models here, I would say that the Patriarch definitely is the more killy option, but the Abominator, it's not far behind given half a chance, and it can potentially be even more tanky than the Patriarch. So it's a case of, do you want quite tanky with some decent blender capability, or do you want to go all in on that super tank character that can just wade through, just fusillade firepower and shrug it off? So we'll look at the Patriarch first. Now this bad boy's got a stat of hit weapon skill 2+, he's got strength 6, toughness 5, he's got 6 wounds and 6 attacks, and a built-in 4+ save. Now it also comes with a built-in 5+ invulnerable save. Now the problem with the Patriarch is that whilst he has a very impressive basic stat line, he doesn't benefit from a cult creed, because he is a Genestealer, and Genestealers in the Genestealer cult army, they basically have like not a great rule, which essentially means anything that's got the Genestealer cult Genestealer word, so Patriarchs and your pure strain Genestealers don't benefit from a cult creed. So that's something to be aware of. Now, he's got that nice, but that doesn't mean he doesn't benefit from things like Relics and Warlord traits. He still benefits from that. So that's really important to be aware of. So in terms of how do we then, you know, juice up our Patriarch, there's a couple of things we can look at. The first one that I would say is before you even start looking at Warlord traits or anything like that, you can give your Patriarch up to 2 familiars. Now, familiars are normally there to boost your psychic power capabilities. They let you get off an additional power. But the great thing about familiars as well is that they have their own little profile. They're a little like character that supports and follows your Patriarch around. Which means if you get hit by a really high damage weapon, let's say like a Thunderhand that could be damage 3 or damage 4, you don't have to take that on your Patriarch. Your familiar can jump in the way and take all that damage. So that's actually a really important thing to note, because if you take a pair of familiars with your Patriarch, that's 2 multi-damage wounds that your Patriarch can just absorb on the familiars, which is really, really good to know. Then we move on to things like Warlord traits and Relics. Now, the first one to look at is you can have a Warlord trait called Shadow Stalker that gives you an inbuilt -1 to hit for your opponent. That is shooting and close combat. So that's nice. okay, because it makes your Patriarch have 6 wounds, toughness 5, a 4+ save, a 5+ invulnerable save, and then a -1 to hit inbuilt. So that's a really nice one. You've also got Born Survivor. Now, Born Survivor is a bit like Disgustingly Resilient, the new Disgustingly Resilient, which reduces all the damage against your Warlord by 1 to a minimum of 1. So you get hit by a 2 damage weapon, it's a 1 damage weapon. If you get hit by a 3 damage weapon, it's a 2 damage. So that's actually quite a nice one to have. And those are the 2 sort of main tanky Warlord traits that you can get. And then you can look at then you can look at the cult-specific Warlord traits. Now, you could go down a good one for this route is you can look at the Pauper Princes, which has Beloved Grandsire. Beloved Grandsire adds 2 to the unquestioning loyalty rolls, which means if you've got your Patriarch surrounded by a bunch of neophytes or acolytes, every time your Warlord takes some damage, before you roll the damage, it's a bit like shield drones. Your neophytes and acolytes have a chance to jump in front of the Patriarch and take the hit for him, because they're like, no, master, protect the master. So you could have, normally that's on a 4+, so how it would work is someone rolls to hit you, rolls to wound you, and then you roll your save. If you fail your save, then you roll your unquestioning loyalty roll, and at a 4+, someone jumps in front and takes the wound. And then, like a shield drone, all the damage goes onto them. However, if you've got Pauper Princes, that happens on a 2+, which means unless you roll a 1, your Warlord could be getting hit time and time again, and he could just have neophyte after neophyte jumping in the way. That's actually one of my preferred tactics, and it's very difficult to kill a Patriarch. It's very difficult to kill a Pauper Prince's Beloved Grandsire Patriarch. That is almost the tankiest thing you can do, because they can't get to him because the neophytes just keep jumping in the way. It's really powerful. Now, the next thing to look at is you can take a couple of relics. Now, the main one that there's a non-cult specific one, which is Amulet of the Voidworm, which is add 1 to the saving throws made for the bearer against ranged weapons. In addition, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at the bearer. Now, adding 1 to saving throws made against ranged weapons is nice. I mean, that is saving throws. That means your Patriarch gets a 4+ invulnerable save against shooting attacks. Not bad. Not bad at all. You've also got things like the Elixir of the Prime Specimen, which is Twisted Helix only, and increase the attacks, toughness, and wounds of the bearer by 1. So you've got a Patriarch that's going up to 7 wounds now, toughness 6. That's pretty tasty. That's pretty tasty indeed. You've also got things like Mark of the Clawed Omnisire, which is for the Bladed Cog, and I've said multiple times on the channel that Bladed Cog's a really, really nice cult creed to follow. Gives you a straight up 4+ invulnerable save. Now that one's not as important for the Patriarch, but it is really important for the Abominant. So those are sort of the main ways that you can really sort of start piling on the tanky buffs onto your Patriarch. Now, looking at the Abominant, many of the same things apply. Many of them do. But the Abominant has a couple of other special rules which really do deserve its own own look at. So the Abominant has toughness 5 like the Patriarch. It's got 1 less wound than the Patriarch. It's only got 5 wounds. And it's not as killy. It's only got 3 attacks, although it does come with a thunder hammer, essentially, a power sledgehammer. So that's really nice. And it has a 5+ armor save. So it doesn't have an invulnerable save at this point. But it does have it does reduce damage by 1 natively. It's got Bestial Vigor. Reduce damage by 1, and you get a 5+ pain inbuilt. So that's really nice. Regenerative Flesh is really good as well. At the beginning of your turn, the model regains D3 lost wounds. So you start thinking, well, clearly the Patriarch's the superior choice. Well, number 1, the Abominant's cheaper. Number 2, your Abominant can already reduce its damage by 1. You could then take the Warlord trait, Born Survivor to reduce damage by an additional 1. So you'd actually reduce all damage by 2. So even if someone hits you with a damage 3 weapon, you're only taking 1 damage. And then you have a 5+ feel no pain to cancel that out. And then, which means that someone has to hit you with 5 Thunderhammer attacks and wound you with all 5 of those Thunder attacks. And then they have to go through, and then you have to fail all of your 5+ feel no pains. So actually, your Abominable can tank a Smash Captain pretty easily, which is really nice. And then you start thinking about, well, okay, let's take this a step further. Let's say you do go for Born Survivor, so you are really resilient to those high damage weapons. You then put you go Bladed Cog, which is already a fantastic choice, and that gives your Abominable a 4+ invulnerable save. Now, if you're Bearer, if the Bladed Cog guy has a 4+ invulnerable save, the thing about the Abominable is he does get to follow a cult creed. He's not a pure strain Genestealer, which means if you give your Abominable the mark of the Clawed Omnissiah, he gets a 4+ from the Relic, and then it's increased again by the Bladed Cog cult creed, because the Bladed Cog cult creed is get a 6+ invulnerable save. If you already have one, you get a 3+ invulnerable save. Or if you already have one, sorry, add 1 to your invulnerable save. So, actually, looking at it this way, the Abominable might be less killy on the surface, but he would have a 3+ invulnerable save versus the Patriarch's at best 4+ invulnerable save. Okay? He could reduce damage by 2. And he has a 5+ feel no pain. And he still benefits from Unquestioning Loyalty because he's a character. So neophytes could still jump in front of him. Now, if you want to go down that super invulnerable save route, people are only going to be jumping in front of him on 4+. But that's still really tanky. It's still really, really nice. And definitely allows him to just take a Smash Captain on the chin. Or the equivalent, just on the chin. Now, I guess it comes down... You could also make him... You could either go for that, or you could go for Elixir of the Prime Specimen, so he gets more wounds, more toughness. There's loads of things you can do. But the point is that those are sort of the 2 ways that I would look at going with the Patriarch. Going with your killy characters. With the Abominable, I'd go Bladed Cog. I'd give him that 3+ invuln, and I'd give him the Born Survivor Warlord trait, and that just makes him really, really resistant to high damage attacks. If you want someone that's a bit more resilient against small arms, go for the Patriarch. You've got the extra wound, and you could go down the route of Pauper Princes, and that would allow you to have people jump in front of your Patriarch on a 2+. That's really, really nice. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you guys have got any other cool combos for making your Genestealer cult characters survive and become way more tanky, please let me know. Because I think it's really cool how you can have these really tough characters in an army that's traditionally seen as quite fragile. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.